Hi, good to talk to you again.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So, what's your question?
So my question is, I'm not sure if this is correct, but I have heard that a large proportion of, I guess, energy is where the channel of where your sun is, and that for me is gate 7. And I was wondering if I could have some insight into how that could show up. So I know you talk about the shadow, disempowered, and empowered.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, that's what I would like to know. Some
Well,
awareness in
well,
that space.
I will, but tell me how if you've read about it and so on, how do you, what's your take on it as of right now?
What shows up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, have you explored
Oh,
it at all or looked for it in your life or looked for, I'm just curious.
yes. Well, look, I haven't really done research on how it can show up. I know how I feel in myself.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
yeah.
I'm
So,
assuming you're talking about how it relates to you. Or are you talking
of
about it
course,
just
yeah.
in general?
No, no, no,
In how it
no.
relates to
Yes.
you, right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So
Yeah.
have you
So,
come up with anything that you're like, oh, I could see it here or there, or no? I don't know. I'm curious.
yeah, sure. So, I think the way that it shows up for me is being like, I guess, like being the work that I do, like being present for people, role modeling, being consistent, regulating myself so that I can create safety for people, and leading through, I guess, like self-awareness, like, like wanting to, helping people to be able to see themselves and for what they, really are. So in terms of leadership, I guess I try and be those things. I guess for me, I sometimes worry that I might come across as too dominating. Um, and I had that, I guess it's a fear, and to be able to temper that, which is actually what I really love working with men. I work in an industry where it's male dominated, because I can have that really kind of direct relationship in that space. But yeah, I guess just in terms of increasing self-awareness, just being aware of the shadow aspects of how that might show up in myself, and when it's disempowered.
Um, I'm just, oh, I see what's going on here. Um, well, you have the 45 is much stronger leadership energy than the 7. Okay, that 45-21, which I think we talked about last month. Didn't we talk about the Queen last month and
Yeah,
sovereign
we did. We talked
energy?
about the 21.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So, so one way
Mm.
that you could think about this is, so the 7, um, so the 7 is on the G center, right? And so it's going to have a sense of love and lovability to it, or it can, right? As well as direction and identity, more than like the 45 does, right? The 45 is tribal leadership. And so the 7 in traditional human design is considered the chief of staff, kind of like the one who
Mm.
supports the president. Like that's how it was called, as the channel of the alpha. But in quantum human design, the 7 is more about collaboration. And so in its more shadow, it would be like using the position of somebody who's behind the leader to manipulate and control people or situations. Or in its disempowered expression, it would be feeling manipulated or controlled by others who have power behind the leader. But then in quantum human design, it's like, okay, we're in this together. And how do we learn how to work together? And so it doesn't have that same high quality of leadership in the traditional sense, for example, that the 31 or the 45 have. It's more about the support for the leader. So if we move from a more hierarchical organization, right, which is where we have, like the leader and the chief of staff, even in democracy, it's still hierarchical in that sense. And if you move into a more horizontal relationship, right, where you might have somebody who's a facilitator, but you would have, ideally with the 7, there's going to be shared and rotating facilitation and leadership, because it's about collaboration. And collaborations generally share leadership. They share power. They rotate power rather than having it concentrated in one person over time. Does that make sense? Does that distinction make sense?
Yes, it does. And I'm happy to say I'm not in the shadow or disempowered aspect of number 7 then. Yeah.
Well, and for
Which is
you, there's going to be a dance between that 7 and that 45-21. And I think what you can do is you can call on the 7 to help, like you were just saying, like, because that 45, like we talked about before, it can be a really, really beautiful, benevolent, generous, caring energy, right? But it can also be the dictator, right? It can be authoritarianism. And so the 7 can help the 45 not go into authoritarianism or not into dictatorship. So, and these things can be subtle. Like you might be like, oh, are you kidding? I'd never be a dictator. And yet sometimes we can look around in our lives and go, oh man, I really wanted to control that situation or that person or whatever, you know what I mean? And we get to go, oh, okay, like let me see how I work with that, right? And the 7 can be an ally for you in that. And I would say that 45 and the 45-21 can be an ally to your 7 to be like, yeah, come on, let's step into our leadership potential. So are you doing that in your life?
Yeah, I feel like I am. Yeah.
Good.
Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah. You're welcome. You're welcome. Good. Helpful?
Cheers. Yes. Thank you.